that featherweight championship. Those ladies, I've worked now with all of them except for Janai. She's ducking me, or I don't know if Selena is letting her duck me, but all those ladies, I will say, as much as we hate each other, they have a special place in my heart. I've beaten all the women in MLW. So, Janai's next.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode here, Astrid has some Body Slam done, which is the premiere, so this is exciting. For those of you that don't know me, I am Astrid. I'm the host of Astrid Ask, and some of the people call me the natural here. First of all, you probably see me doing writing on Body Slam, but this is the first time I get to do interviews now on Body Slam, so this is pretty exciting for me. So I had to bring somebody special for this. Not only that, the real deal, Zayda Steel, which I love to just say it because it rhymes and I love it more than anything. How are you, Zayda?
I'm great. I'm a little beat up. Yesterday, I just wrestled Janai Kai, but I'm here. I'm alive.
What body part hurts the most?
Well, I got knocked out, so honestly, I don't even remember the match. Thank God. So maybe I did not technically lose. My body gave up on me, but her kicks, my freaking jaw. But
I can't begin to imagine that one.
just
yeah,
drinking smoothies all day.
yeah, I definitely don't want to be you today. That's for sure.
I still look good. I still look good. We're
Yes,
here.
you do. You very much do. No, it's like to introduce it, to put it like this, Zayda has been somebody that has been like I can see her on my timeline, and one thing that I like started bringing her my attention was her gear. So I definitely we have to discuss that during this whole interview, because it's one of the things like I love how it looks great. But before we get to that part, I definitely gonna want to go back to the beginning when it comes to you and your Korean wrestling so far. So what caught your attention in the first place to go from being I want to be like just not a fan, but I want to be the wrestler, be on the other side of
Yeah.
it too.
Well, yeah, growing up, wrestling was always on TV. It wasn't until AJ Lee specifically that I was like, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I can do this. I don't know if it's just because I saw myself in her. I don't know if it's just because she didn't look like the other girls. Something little old me connected to her to the point where I was like, all right, I'm a fan, but now I want to do this. I don't know what it is. And I always hope that I can be that, like what AJ Lee was to me, I can be to other little girls. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need to touch upon that as well, because one thing that I learned about you by doing my research is being your Arab descent, which is something that I think about because I can relate in that aspect of like having that representation and wanting to be there for other people as well. So having that representation be a part of who you are, but also not having be a forefront of like not being a stereotypical, to put it like that, when it comes to your character. How important is that for you of having that being that representation, maybe for somebody else in the future, just like Asia was for you?
Yeah, like AJ Lee connected to me because I don't know if it was just because she was small, she was a tomboy, whatever it was. I don't want my background, like, I'm here, I'm the Arab girl. Like, I don't want that to be my gimmick, my character. I just want to be entertaining. I want to be larger than life. And it just so happens that I do have that background. So I try not to really push it. But if I'm doing interviews, I do want to let it be known, like, hey guys, I have Arab descent. So when I do make it to TV, I can be that shining light. I can let little Arab Middle Eastern girls know that they can go for it, because it is in our side of the world, it is so far fetched. So I want to let it be known, but I'd also, like I said, I don't want to just be here to fit a quota.
Mm-hmm.
I want my confidence, my character, my in-ring abilities to be what gets me there.
Yeah, and I can say you're on your way there already, because one of the other things that caught my attention about you as well was not only your charisma but the way you talk as well. I feel like a lot of wrestlers obviously have that wrestling ability, but it takes them a while, or they lack that part of the talking. And that's one of the things that caught my attention. Is like, this girl knows what she's doing when that confidence and everything is like, how does that come from you? It's like, how did you feel like putting that out there in your character too?
Ooh, I guess just years of just being like bullied and just being that quiet, because it's so funny. Like, I guess on the indies right now in wrestling, I'm quote unquote the pretty girl. But growing up, like, I was the ugly friend. I was the tomboy. I'm not like 10-year-old me is looking at me now like that's what I am now. But going into that, I don't know, like I fake it till I make it. Like I really try. But I also I don't know. I'm gonna just say I fake it till I make it because I really don't think I'm all that yet. I'm on my way, but just once you're out there, you gotta you. No one wants to see someone playing a character. No one wants to see you all shy and timid to yourself. You got, especially I'm a heel majority of the time, so I'm going out there whether I'm great or not. I'm gonna let it be known I'm the real deal.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions that I had, I think, for later on, because one of my friends, if I'm not mistaken, if I can go back to it there, I had one of my friends also ask that questions like, how did you think? Not only because it rhymes, and obviously I love how clever it is, because that's one of my things when it comes to wording. How did you even come up with like calling yourself the real deal, especially when you're just obviously just starting out, to put it like this?
Yes, so all my faves all have like nicknames. Sasha Banks is the boss. AJ Styles is the phenomenal one. I always like a good moniker, a good nickname. So one day I was watching SmackDown and I can't name you. I want to say it was Sasha Banks, but Michael Cole is just like running down the card and like he was like, "Yeah, Sasha Banks, the real deal." We're just gonna pretend he said Sasha. He called someone the real deal, and for whatever reason, the way he said it, the enunciation really was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm the real deal." And I always knew I wanted to be Zayda because, again, just a little inkling of my Arab side,
Mhm.
and then just Steel just kind of because I was like, real deal Zayda does not roll, and then Steel just presented itself. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go with it. And I thought it was so smart, it was so clever, and I started recently like wrestling a lot more at the H2O building and there's this guy named Brian Neal who also calls himself the real deal. And I was like, dang it, I'm not creative. I thought I was, but
Well, I'm like, it came up in the conversation, but that was one of my community questions from the replies that we got from, I think it's The Disciple, if I'm not mistaken. It was basically, how did it come up with the real deal and what inspired it? So The Disciple, we kind of skipped it on the on the community questions, but that was your question there. Um, but thinking back also, like, what was, you mentioned before in other interviews too that your brother was always watching wrestling, but what caught your attention to, like, whether your brother and you just watching it together?
honestly, I was like just forced to really because like growing up in a small little house, like I shared a room with my brother majority of the time. So TV privileges were always his. Like, who am I to like change the channel? So like I was kind of forced to just watch it. Even if I didn't like it, I had to like suck it up. So I kind of grew to love it. But it was really the divas. I mean, I did like the Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, but the divas. I don't care who it was. I don't care if it was 2 seconds or 2 minutes, a 30-second promo in the back with Maurice just brushing her hair, whatever it was, like those divas killed it and little old me was like, I want to be that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like any moment that I could take from them, I was like, oh, they're in TV. Let me just
Literally,
watch them.
like I've said this to like a coach of mine before, and he looked at me like I was stupid. I was like, look, 10-year-old me, if you would have told me like, hey, let's watch a Triple H Cena match or Alicia Fox versus Brie Bella, I'm choosing that Alicia Fox and Brie Bella match. Like, I'm sorry, they're girls. I'm a girl. Like, sorry.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I definitely used
I'll
to do
take
that
no
too.
hate. Do never diss the divas.
No, never. And I always think about it this way, even though it wasn't the best time for the women, you take any time that you could with the ladies to like kind of grow that connection between them. And that's what I love about the women's wrestling too. Is like any kind of little moment that you can grab from that, you would definitely could, especially during those times. But
Yes.
I also wanted to go back to like you deciding to be a pro wrestler, because as you mentioned in other interviews too, you mentioned that when we were pretty young. So thinking back, I think about like my family as well, because obviously I feel like being in minorities, you always tend to have that moment of like hesitation with your family. It's like,
Yeah.
are you sure you don't want to go to school? Are you sure you don't want to go to college or pursue this or that? I was like, how did your mom, for example, feel once you told her, it was like, no, I'm definitely going for this. I'm determined.
So my mom always knew that me and my brother loved wrestling, and so she sort of just accepted it. Now, does she love that I do it? No, but I will say my mom surprisingly has been super supportive, like driving me to wrestling school and sitting in the car for 3 hours just to drive me back home, just to clock into work the next morning. Like I remember crying to her at like 12 years old, like, I really want the Divas replica belt. And mom was like, I don't even know how to begin to get that. And like one day she just like eBayed, like got like a plastic old one from eBay. I was like, here you go. Like I didn't know what else or how else to get you the real one. Like throughout the years, she's always tried. And like I said, she'd rather me be a doctor, but she's always been supportive. I can say that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you were not a wrestler, then what would you have done instead, though, if you didn't go that route?
Literally just work a 9 to 5 job and just be miserable, like fast food or something. Cause I don't have any like
Mm,
other, like, I may be acting, but I don't even know how to get into that, like it's
mm.
always been wrestling. And if I can't
Yeah,
wrestle, I'll be a mouthpiece. I'll be a commentator. I always just want to do something in wrestling,
yeah,
even after I
that's nice.
retire.
Yeah, I love that mindset too. I also want to touch a little bit on that part because you also mentioned like you getting bullied for watching wrestling, which is something that it happened to me too because obviously it's a guy thing and it's fake, so you can't watch it. So, did you have any kind of like similar experiences in that type of way of getting that kind of
Oh,
bullying as well?
all the time. Like I'm known in my county as that like wrestling chick. I remember like one time my brother like taking me. I went to this like after school program, and he would take me and be like, "Shut up! Do not bring wrestling up. Just shut up." And I'm like, "Why? It's so cool." And I had like an AJ Styles shirt.
Oh,
Don't wear it. Do not wear it. You're gonna like I didn't care because at the end of the day, it's like, are you gonna hit me? Like, because I watch wrestling? Like, no, you're just gonna say words. I don't. I personally didn't care. Looking back at it now, but at the time, I was like, damn, what's wrong with me liking wrestling?
yeah, and thinking about not only that you mentioned about like liking wrestling, but when you first started in to put it like that in wrestling, you were also a valet. So it's like, how what did you learn from doing that compared to what you're learning now as a wrestler too?
I think weirdly enough, like being valet did help me a lot before I even got into the ring. Just nerves and getting more, confident out there. Because the first time you walk out in the crowd, it is nerve wracking. They always say like slow down, and you're like, I am slow. What are you talking about? And once you're in the moment, you're like, oh no, I'm going quick. Like take that moment, breathe, and being a valet and getting to watch whoever I was valeting in the ring and seeing them put their matches together, listen to the crowd, it definitely was a mini practice for me. Like I got to learn front and center with them. So it does help you a lot. I do recommend like a lot of women, like, did I like it? No. Did I want to be in the ring? Absolutely. But it does help you like get the nerves out. So then when you are ready to get in the ring, you're semi ready. So
Yep.
I'll give valeting, it's not as good as wrestling, but I'll take it.
And another thing that I learned about you that was super interesting, and I definitely had to bring it up, is the part that you were one of the extras in a certain scene with Dominic and Maria and Valentine's Day. And I definitely like once I learned about it, I had to go back and watch. And it's like, oh, I see her now. This is pretty awesome.
Dude,
This
I
is
was
like,
right next to
right.
Dominic in their little table. I was like, "Don't turn around! Don't turn around!"
And like, how did that
Yeah,
come about? And like, did you get to talk to like Ria or Dom and like get some kind of advice from them as well in that aspect?
I think they did, but I don't remember. But how it went about was the day before. They're like, "Hey, by the way, it's Valentine's Day. Just bring a dress." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm not gonna get used because at that point, I did extra work before, didn't get used. Extra work is cool. You get free food and you're there. Like, hey, nothing to complain about."
Yeah.
But when they told us we're doing this little Valentine's Day segment, I was like, "Oh, okay." And then when I was seated right next to Rey Mysterio, the GOAT, and mommy, oh,
Oof.
I definitely was like, hold it in, but I said hi. Rhea did talk to me. I'll say that, but I don't remember because my mind was like, I'm here.
I'm
You
like,
can't
I
hate
will be,
me, guys.
I will be mute. I wouldn't be able to say anything if I saw mommy in front of me either. So
Literally, like, I wish I did remember, but she did talk to me. She did say more than hi. I
oh,
will say that.
that's funny to think about though. And even then, like I know that obviously as your time in wrestling, you haven't been wrestling for too long to put it like that. But to think about the fact that you already had also a W tryout at such little time in your career too. What was that experience like? Because I know obviously people talk about it, but we don't get to see it unless you're a part of it. So it's like, is it
Yeah.
as grueling as it is that you think about it? Is like, is it what you expected it to be? Or was it worse, like painfully the next day? I can imagine and everything.
Yeah. So my tryout was a bit different than what most people see like on YouTube or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it was very intimate. It was just a couple indie people. It was 3 days. It definitely was not what I expected. I did expect a little bit more blow up drills, but looking back now, I am like definitely learned a lot from it. I don't regret what I did because at the end of the day, like I got it very early on. There's only so much I could have
Yeah.
prepared for, but at that time, I don't know. Like without saying too much, it did help me a lot mentally.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna just leave it at that. Maybe one day I'll go in full details, but going into that
Mhm.
tryout and leaving that tryout, I definitely left with a new mindset, a new love for this, a new like, okay, we got to take this up a notch. So, and clearly I'm doing something. So,
Hey, like I said, it was like you're just starting out, and to think you already got it, and obviously you have more to learn because obviously we see this as like you keep
yeah.
growing every time. So
Dude, I
I
thought I
cannot
was
even begin
dreaming
to
when I
imagine.
got that email. I was like, there's no way. I'm not even a year in my career. What?
Yeah, that's just incredible to think about, and
Yeah.
just and thinking about in your position now that you had a little bit more experience and you've been obviously in that trial and everything, what do you have advice for somebody that's thinking about getting that trial or even just resting altogether?
Tryout wise, you gotta love this. You know, you can do all the blow up drills, train all day, every day, but it's all mentally. Like, you hear all the time, like wrestling is mentally tough more than physically tough, and I will 1,000% attest to that. Like, if you do not love this, like, and I mean love this, like I eat, sleep, breathe this. I train, I work out. When I get up in the morning, I'm eating a protein packed breakfast to get bigger for wrestling. Like my mind is always wrestling, wrestling, wrestling. And maybe it's a little too much wrestling, but if you don't love this and this goes in and out of the tryout, just you this has to be your life to succeed.
Yeah, that's for sure. Another thing that I wanted to also gather aside from like the W trial, what did you learn being in the indie scene now, especially now that you have a lot of like intergender matches and things like that? How does that experience, compare in your learning experience, to put it like that?
How does intergender wrestling compare?
Yeah.
So intergender wrestling is very different than a regular match. Obviously, the guys can base for a majority of your stuff, whereas you can't be as me personally, I can't be as flashy with the girls, and maybe that's just on me. Who's to say? But intergender wrestling, it's a hit or miss. Some people love it. Some people are, oh, it's not believable, and no, say what they want. At the end of the day, like I would say, we're all wrestlers, but there is a big difference between wrestling a guy and a girl, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What was the question?
Well, to put into the main idea of the interview, which is something that I wanted to ask from the beginning, when it comes to your character to us, and not only from being the confidence and everything that you
Yeah,
have, where also did you draw your inspiration from?
just my life, really. Zayda Steel is a lot of me. It's obviously they all say, it's your character's you turned up, and I've never dreamed of my character to be a spooky character or anything hokey. I always knew that I just wanted to be a cocky bitch. Just because I don't know if I can curse on here, just because growing up I've always been quiet and to myself, and hey, don't say this, and just be that shy kid that now
Yeah.
wrestling I can be what I really want to be and then some, and really say how I feel. Like, oh, what are you looking at? I am better than you. What are you gonna do about it? Like, I can working a 9 to 5 all week and then wrestling on the weekend. I can all that rage building up. That's me. So
Yeah.
there's no really big difference.
Yeah. And another thing that caught my attention from you as well very recently, it's your run now in MLW. So how has that experience been with the ladies that you have in MLW, and what are your goals within MLW?
Well, I'll say right now, my goal is that featherweight championship. Those ladies, I've worked now with all of them except for Janai. She's ducking me, or I don't know if Selena is letting her duck me, but
Mhm.
all those ladies, I will say, as much as we hate each other, they all are. They have a special place in my heart. You know, I've beaten all the women in MLW. So Janai's next. And my run there right now, you know, I'm still green. I'm still young in my career, but it is, I'll always say this right now, I'm using MLW as practice for TV. So I'll just leave it at that. But I do want that featherweight championship. So
Yes, let's get it for this year. I'll be cheering you on, and I know some of my friends are too. I did want to get to the community questions that I have for you here. I have one here from my tag team partner Ed. He said, "Have you enjoyed? How have you enjoyed working with the Brats, which is Paris Fennell and Shannon Levangie?"
the Brats. Ooh, I like to say I'm like the third honorary like member of the Brats, but I've worked Shannon numerous times. I love wrestling Shannon, but I think I love working with her better because that girl can go. She is so sweet. She is a star. She works hard. Paris, I don't know much about Paris, but she's a bad bitch. So all of us together, like, hey, we run Wrestling Open. We lose majority of our matches, but hey, you are entertained. Brats for life.
Yes. And the second question he had was, what more can be done to bring women's independent wrestling to TV wrestling companies?
Ooh, I just tweeted this out like a couple of days ago, but I think more time. Like, it's 2024. Normally, most cards there's like
Yeah.
7 or 8 matches. Maybe there's 2 women's matches if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And I think it's BS that those 2 women's matches get the least amount of time. Granted, if there's like a TV star, you might get a little bit more time, but I'm like, give the green girls more time. Like, you want us to progress, you want us to get better. Like, it's only so much we can do in 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So I would say more time equals more progress.
Mhm.
So that personally is what I would say could help shed light.
Yeah. I had one of my good friends, Bobby Petito, who's also a big fan of yours, by the way. Well, I have two Bobbies. The both are big fans of yours. But the first one, Bobby Petito, he said, "Can you ask her if she like wrestling against Angelina Love?"
Yes, I loved wrestling her. I will say this: Angelina let me do whatever I want in that match, and she was the first one I was kind of like starstruck to wrestle thus far in my career, just because like the beautiful people like. So you asked me earlier like who inspired my character. The beautiful people really did
Mm.
play part of me being Zayda Steel,
Yeah.
and wrestling her as my first title defense was a surreal moment. I definitely was like keeping it to myself, trying to be cool, but that girl, that woman, let me do whatever I wanted in that match. She let me hit her with the belt. Like, I didn't want to hurt her face. I really didn't, but she was
Yeah.
so cool to work with.
Yeah. His second question was, do you plan to travel in the UK and Japan in the future?
Yes. Leave it at that.
Ooh, there's a hint in there somewhere.
Somewhere.
The two questions are from my friend Bobby Munz, and he does MLW coverage for I not in Body Sim, but in another platform that I work at that help with our local establishment. So he loves watching you. He's definitely one of those people that is always talking about you. So he says, "How do you feel being a major player in the rising women's division on MLW?"
I feel like, again, I grew up watching MLW, whether it was MJF as a top star or Swerve. Like, I remember Richard Holiday turning on Alex Hammer. So now I'm in a group with Richard Holiday. Like, it's so crazy how, it works. And as well as early on in my career that I get to be part of. And the featherweight division is still fairly like new. There's only ever been 3 women that have held the belt. soon for. But no, it feels great to be in the forefront. I would say that.
And the next question he had was, what other independent talents will intrigue her to feud either in MLW?
Noof, bring her.
Ooh.
Court, MSL. I want to wrestle Noof.
Ooh, she's bringing the challenges already in
Dude,
here.
I've been calling her out and it hasn't happened yet. I'm like, come on. I don't know if she's ducking me or I don't know if like people are just cheap. Someone needs to make it happen.
I don't know. Well, I'll clip it and tag her. Hopefully, we'll get an answer
Please
for her.
do. Yeah.
Let's see. Hopefully, we'll make that happen in this year somehow. But no, before we wrap up, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this with you. And second of all, what else do you have coming up that you would like for the people to get to know from you, and any of your socials you want to plug as well?
So this month I am taking a little break ski wrestling. It is Ramadan, March. So happy Ramadan to my fellow Arabs, Muslims. But April, Mania Week, I got a couple matches, championship matches in that month. May, I have MLW. Hopefully I get my title match soon. And then I may or may not have a tour or something coming up this summer, but well, I don't know. You just follow me on social media and I'll post where I'm going to be at.
Yeah, where can the people find your social media?
Everything is just Zayda Steel.
Yes.
Twitter or X, Instagram, TikTok. Just no Facebook. Do not message me on Facebook, please.
Facebook is like a grandpa thing at this point. It's okay.
Yeah.
No, thank you for taking time out of your day to do this with me. Really fun to chat with you, and hopefully we get some answers from all your questions you have from MLW to NIMP. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for watching this episode of Astrid Ask Somebody Sam. Have a nice day.